The Eagles never seem to disappoint. The Eagles media, the Eagles players, the Eagles organization. They just always keep us giving us something to talk about on a daily basis. It never fails. More rumors, more drama out of the NovaCare complex from the media, from the players. We're going to talk about it. Sixers' final stretch run begins tonight. That is on the docket, trending in the AM. With your thoughts and opinions, it's live in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're watching. Make sure you hit those like buttons, share buttons, retweet, follow, subscribe buttons. You know the drill. Help grow the algorithm, help grow this channel, help grow this great morning show that we got running here on Philadelphia Sports Network every single morning at 8 a.m. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel, at Beard of Knowledge on all social media platforms. Guys, we got lots to talk about. More drama, more things going on. Eagles Nation never disappoints us with more controversy, more quotes, more rumors, more whatever. I planned on kicking the show off with some solid Sixers conversation today, getting set for the final stretch, and we will talk some Sixers basketball as they get set to start the second half. The unofficial second half, the final quarter of the season. But there are so many different rumors, so many different conversations, so many different comments coming out of the Eagles, coming out from anonymous sources, coming out from here, coming out from there, drama here, drama there. So as always, to not disappoint, we talk Eagles. What's up, Marshawn? How you doing this morning? I'm on time. Are you? I don't know. 412. K1 hasn't been in early yet in a while. Who are we getting? Big Philly, Montgomery or Snell? You want to talk Phillies? We're not getting either of them. If Philly's roster is set, as is Marshawn, in my opinion, until at least closer to the trade deadline. So let's see what happened in Eagles Twitter, Eagles media, Eagles culture yesterday. We're coming off of that Craig cartoon or whatever his name is comments. I got breaking news, but I'm just not going to tell you conversation. Comes out that as soon as the show ends, I see quotes from Adam Schefter saying that he got a text from somebody from the Philadelphia Eagles saying that story was total BS. All right, so maybe it was. Maybe it was. And some people late in the show yesterday talking about there was a woman involved in the fractured locker room. I don't know. Then you hear conversation. Derrick Gunn dropped some information over on that other clickbaity site, Jacob, the great Jacob, talking about how Jalen Hurts felt the pressure of the contract and being pulled in 27 different directions. He also dropped a quote talking about Nick Sirianni and the problems where once Big Dom got suspended from the sideline, that, there was, that was his emotional, boss, his emotional, keep him in check guy. And that hurt Nick Sirianni. You got A.J. Brown, whether he's in control of his Twitter account or not, tweeting out stuff about the media and the fans. I don't even, I thought my main Eagles talking point today originally was going to be Patrick Surtain rumors. But instead, we're right back to square one with all the Eagles drama, all the Eagles locker room issues. And I don't even know which one to tackle. Schefter countering cartoon's comments, but not really. Derrick Gunn's comments on Jalen Hurts, Derrick Gunn's comments on Sirianni. There's so many different angles that could be taken here to kick off the show. And it's just par for the course with the way this Eagles organization is right now. The Core 12, that's right, to the chat. What is up? Good morning, Chuck. How are you today? What do we have an Udoku situation? That's right. Forgot about the Udoku situation. Is he even coaching anymore? Did he get another job? Maybe he did. I don't even know. I don't pay close enough attention. It really ain't been the same for Nicholas Sirianni since Big Dom got suspended. Honestly, I was on the fence on Nick Sirianni, returning or not. I made arguments to keep him. I made arguments to get rid of him. But in that report from Derrick Gunn, and here's the thing, Derrick Gunn, he's a legend. He is. You know, he's one of the most well-respected names in Philadelphia media. Until he joined that clickbait site known as Mr. Jacob. And he has thrown some random shit up against the wall in the last year or so. But on the flip side, Derrick Gunn still has a lot of connections and a lot of numbers of players. And while he may phrase things a certain way that are a little bit more clickbaity, he's built a reputation where you kind of got to trust him. And if Nick Sirianni really struggled that massively, with Big Dom, his head of security, not on the sideline, and that was one of the big issues, I think we got a bigger Nick Sirianni problem than we realize. Derrick Gunn does seem more trustworthy than most. He's a legit insider. He's got legit connections on the team. He's got legit connections with, different people in the organization. Problem is he does kind of maybe now in the last year or so stretch it a little bit more because he's got to help Jacob keep the lights on because they're not keeping the lights on. They're behind on a lot. I bet you they're not behind on Derrick Gunn's pay, but the reports are they're behind on a lot of people's pay. So maybe there's some of that to this scenario. Maybe he's blowing up a minor little detail. But what if he's not? Because he is one of the more trustworthy, honest guys in the media in Philadelphia. What if Nick Sirianni really struggled as a head coach in the second half of the season because Big Dom wasn't there? If that report is even remotely, utterly, just like 1% true, if Derrick Gunn's report is 1% true on Nick Sirianni, then we've got a Nick Sirianni problem. Then if he cannot properly coach a team without his head of security standing next to him, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Should Nick be fired because he took his staff to Gino? Well, that was a fireable offense in and of itself. You don't go to Gino's. You don't go to Pat's. You take him to somewhere good. Take him to Fox's Pizza. Gunner's slumming with that Ocean 5 casino crowd. That is true. Gunner took a lesser role, a smaller, easier role. I know Derrick Gunn's got some things going on. I think his wife's pretty sick. Took an easier job to kind of not ease into retirement, but work a little bit less than with NBC Sports. And you know what? Jacob, in theory, when it first started years ago, was supposed to be the alternative. Jacob's demise is why I do this. Because what Jacob was supposed to be, an alternative for the fans, it just turned into another WIP or fanatic. What's up, Brett? How you doing? Oh man, the flu. That's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that, my man. Hope you're all doing well though. Hope you're getting back at it. I'm surprised if Jalen truly struggled with the attention off the field after signing that contract because of his demeanor. On the field struggles were mostly play calling and injuries. Now, Marshawn, there's a lot of different directions I could take this conversation in on the Jalen Hurts side of it. With precedent. I'm not sure which one I want to tackle first, but there have been many, many reports of people. Hold on, I see a comment here. How's my boy Chachi? He says he knows more about sports. Chachi knows jack crap about sports. And why don't you ask him? You work with him probably. He's on Twitter now. Do you not realize that Chachi is on Twitter? Go find them. But back to the Jalen Hurts thing here. There is precedent where big contracts do cause issues. And I think Jalen Hurts knew that there was going to be problems. I mean, last offseason, we read stories and heard reports that after signing the big contract, what did Jalen Hurts do? Jalen Hurts went and contacted Michael Jordan to say, how do I handle this fame and fortune? How do I protect myself from falling into any traps? So he knew there was going to be problems. He knew there was going to be pressure. And he tried. I love to go back to the Alex Rodriguez story of why he said he did steroids the first time in Texas. And he's been very open in the past. I haven't heard him talk about it in a while. He's definitely tried to distance himself from the steroid conversation. But Alex Rodriguez was on quoted saying, when I first signed that first $250 million contract in Texas, I felt the weight of the world, the organization, the city, the team on my shoulders. I struggled at first with that weight. So I found a way to cope. And I'm not saying Jalen Hurts needs to do steroids or anything like that, but someone, Alex Rodriguez, arguably could have been one of the greatest baseball players of all time without steroids. And he struggled. And he found a way to cope. Jalen Hurts, very realistically, could have been struggling. The commercials. I see you making the Hulu sports commercial. It wasn't just that. There were multiple commercials, multiple endorsement deals, more people pulling at his strings, people finding out about his personal life, that he's actually got a girlfriend, something he likes to keep very private, going to awards, banquets, appearances. You got $250 million in the bank now. Figuring out how to manage that. And a short offseason. Combine all that, and he may have been pulled in too many directions. Now, everything you say here about his demeanor is why I don't think it will be a lingering problem with Jalen Hurts. Why I think that Jalen Hurts could make a quick turnaround. Maybe not the 2022 good. That's debatable, whatever. But to think that signing the big contract, to getting more fortune and fame, to getting to the point where he was after the Super Bowl last year, could not have affected him a little bit this year is a little short-sighted. Will be interesting how Jalen is once his bone bruise and his knee heals, opens the offense back up. Yeah. I mean, on top of all being pulled in multiple directions, he got banged up and injured. So there's a lot of different aspects of it. We don't know what Kellen Moore's going to want this offense to look like. So we don't know what that is going to be. It wasn't contract. It was Brian Johnson's playbook, and that got solved. As I have there's a clip somewhere out there. It's always Brian Johnson's fault, me saying that. Look, that was definitely. So here's the thing, K1. I think the getting pulled in multiple directions angle that Derrick Gunn said started the problem. And then the Brian Johnson thing didn't work out. Then it was like a domino effect. One thing fell, one led to another, and it just kept like quicksand. He started struggling to get out of the quicksand, and more problems kept getting piling on his shoulders. The more he struggled, the further he sunk. Jalen Hurts is a human being. It's not out of the realm of possibilities, even for Superman, a.k.a. Jalen Hurts, to find this adversity a little more than he can handle, or a little more than he was ready to handle. Jalen was pissed when people saw his lock screen and put it online. He was absolutely pissed about it. I mean, he's probably pissed that A.J. Brown may or may not be tweeting things about the team and the fans and the media. Jalen Hurts likes to keep things close to the vest. And that's one of the things that I love about him. Is that it's all business with him. It's all football. It's all business. He doesn't want his personal life out there. He doesn't want his emotions out there. He doesn't want his feelings out there. Some want him to show more emotion, and I get that. But what I don't get is that, solved. Yeah. If Jalen is an android who hasn't completed downloading his emotional responses. See, he's like Johnny Five. There's a lot. He needs more input. He hasn't downloaded all the input yet. If you get those references. It seems the biggest problem was Jeffrey and Howie wanted to make him a pocket quarterback to protect their investment, knee injury, and play calling, huge issues. See, that's the thing. Like, we're talking about, yeah, Marsha. We're talking about the rumor that Derrick Gunn put out there, but that was just one piece of a very large puzzle of issues that happened in 2023. Not just with Jalen Hurts, but with the entire organization. There were flaws across the board with this team and organization. And just yesterday's newest thing was on Jalen Hurts, was on Big Dom and Nick Sirianni. They were the big rumors. They were the big conversations. But of course, Howie and Jeffrey have their way of doing business. And, you'd think that they've already learned their lesson of trying to make quarterbacks what they aren't. You made a big investment into Jalen Hurts. Let's think about that for a second. Jalen Hurts got $250. Alex Rodriguez got $250 million like 20 years ago. Man, baseball contracts have gotten out of hand. God damn. I don't know what made me just think of that, but yeah. But you would think that Jeffrey and Howie would just be like, Jalen, go be you. And they might. And we might be making too much of the Jeffrey and Howie want the traditional pocket passing quarterback that's going to throw for 6,000 yards. Maybe. Man. I don't got the flu, but man, you would think I do. I can't keep my nose clear here this morning. I just don't know. How Jalen Hurts overcomes that. Jalen Hurts is going to have, Hong Kong. I know. I don't know. Dude, it happens out of nowhere. I don't have time to mute the screen. Got to do what I got to do. I've always got sinus issues. Jalen Hurts, the Derrick Gunn reports yesterday, I would say are more believable on the Jalen Hurts side than Derrick Gunn saying what he said. I want to read Derrick Gunn's tweet specifically. I want to read the exact words here. Give me a second. According to sources, that's that. Okay. That's the Jalen Hurts part. Okay. Big Dom suspended, controls Sirianni's emotions on the sideline. In his absence, Nick gets into numerous arguments with players, coaches during games. Now, maybe I'm being naive, but I don't remember him getting into major arguments, mid-game. I don't remember that. Not at least in the end of the season there. Maybe there was a few, but nothing major. But if there's any validity to that, that's crazy. But that's harder to believe than Derrick Gunn saying, and I quote, according to sources, Jalen's big contract pulled in numerous directions off the field, put him under a lot of pressure he didn't handle well. So it's not even saying that he can't handle the pressure. He just didn't handle it correctly. And as always, as we always say, we have to have faith in Jalen Hurts' demeanor, personality, and work ethic that he's going to figure it out, that he's going to turn the tides, that he's going to get back on the right page. He's going to spend this offseason working on how to be a better version of Jalen Hurts, not just on the field, but off the field. He's going to learn how to maybe not let himself get pulled in so many directions. Focus on what he loves, which is football. Look at that. I've talked about it before. That ESPN article that was put out before the season started on Jalen Hurts. Now, it basically talked about how he's a machine. He just is football, 24/7. And I talked about it when that article came out, that I thought that maybe Jalen Hurts doesn't have enough fun. That Jalen Hurts might not, be living life enough. And that could be a problem. Well, we see that article alone probably took how much of his time? to be interviewed and put together and the photo shoots and whatnot. Physically and mentally, Jalen Hurts was pulled on in many directions. The weight of that contract put massive weight on his shoulders. Hell, overrating Jalen Hurts as we did on content shows, on TV, on the radio. I mean, Jalen Hurts, we were putting Jalen Hurts at the beginning of the season in the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. I had him at number 2 behind Patty Mahomes. He had to feel that. He knew he's not a top 2. While Chris Sims might have an agenda and Chris Sims might be a complete and total, he has a fetish with criticizing Jalen Hurts. And he's not the most overrated football player in all of NFL. But we definitely did overrate him. He's still a top 10 quarterback, in my opinion. I know if George was watching, he'd say 13, but whatever. He's a top 10 quarterback. There's still a lot of quarterbacks I would not take it before him. What's up, Duck? How you doing this morning? We're talking all the rumors and drama in Eagles Nation right now. We'll get to the Sixers in a little bit. One person did try to drop a Phillies question, but I shut that down really quick. We got Kylie tomorrow, most likely joining us from Bell Smashers Pod and Philadelphia Sports Network for 20 minutes of Phillies talk with her tomorrow. Sims knows the Eagles fans are passionate. He will get the views. I'm not trying to make this about Sims again. We're talking about the Jalen and the Sirianni comments from Derrick Gunn. And also, again, I do want to keep bringing into the equation. The other thing was that Adam Schefter said on one of the radio shows while we were live on the air here, because and you guys wouldn't have heard it, just like I wouldn't have heard it because we're doing this. But he said that he got a text from a player that the reports that were coming out about the locker room were full of shit. He didn't say that they're not true, that they were just shit. And there's some fracture, the Chris cartoon comments or whatever, that something big happened. Schefter didn't say that didn't happen. He just said that one player said that rumor is shit. That's all. Everyone's saying Adam Schefter shot the rumors down. He did not shoot the rumors down. He just said one player texted him and said no. That's it. If it was you, Phil, you put too much pressure on. I did put a lot of pressure on Jim. I put a lot of pressure on A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, too. Because people don't realize I was the first one that started the A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith conversation. Some other big media member got blamed for causing the rift. Thank God. But, it was really me. Kylie Kelce. Is that the person that... Dude, if it was Kylie Kelce, dude, just sell the franchise. Like, I don't... No, it was not Kylie Kelce. There's no way, shape, or form that Kylie Kelce was sleeping around with other people in that locker room. No chance in hell. Morning. What's up, Kyle? How you doing? No one likes us. We kind of care. We do care. Kyle, and I've said this before. I do want respect put on our team's name. I do want respect on the Philadelphia city. I hate that people don't respect us. And George, we are kind of getting to that, which is weird. Because I was listening to a clip from Ike Reese yesterday, and they were debating on his show about culture versus talent. What's more important? We still got the talent. It's the cultures which fracture. Yeah, we've got to fix some of the talent now this offseason. But there is still some elite talent on this team. And if you got complete, perfect elite talent with perfect culture, that's when 2022 happens. But right now, some of the rumors that are leaking, we're not far off from a joke. We might not be the laughing stock of the league, but there's some people definitely laughing at us. Big Dom is special, but he's not a psychologist. Come on with having to hold hands or handhold another adult's emotions. Look, Duck, we kind of got off of that part and onto the Jalen part of it. But if this conversation is even, this rumor or point from Derrick Gunn is even 1% true, I don't know why Nick Sirianni is still the head coach of this football team. If his emotions are so immature that he can't properly coach without his head of security standing next to him, we got an issue. Like, we really seriously, but see, here's the thing. I don't believe that part of the conversation. I believe the Jalen Hurts part of the Derrick Gunn. I don't know how much I believe of this. Because if this was true, and if Nick Sirianni really can't control himself without Big Dom, fine, upstanding Italian American standing next to him, you would think Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie would see that, and they wouldn't want him there still. He wouldn't have kept his job, right? Am I crazy to say that? That if this rumor is true, that he wouldn't be the head coach? I don't know. Oh, I thought you were mentioning that she was the one that was sleeping around. I thought because we're talking about that rumor, and there's a rumor that there's a woman involved in the fractured locker room. I thought that's what you're getting at. You want her to? Oh no, she is not my Kylie coming on here. Kylie Sullenberg, Bell Smashers Pod, Philadelphia Sports Network Phillies writer. Yeah, no. I thought you were saying Kylie was the one that was sleeping around. I'm sorry. Minimal talent on defense now. Yeah, we're working on that. Don't care what moves take place in the offseason. If September comes up and people are talking Super Bowl, those people are delusional. See, I don't know about that, George. Because again, in the NFC, it's not like the AFC. It's not like you've got Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and all these elite quarterbacks, CJ Stroud coming up. All these elite quarterbacks in the AFC. In the NFC, you got to see what's going on with San Francisco. Their locker room might be fracturing. Dallas is always going to Dallas. And Detroit, we don't know. Detroit's where we were after the 2021 season. Kind of, are we going up or are we going? What's going on? I don't buy all this Green Bay Packers hype yet. People putting Jordan Love in their top 10 quarterbacks. I don't know. I think the window's there. And if they make the right moves, even because talent can beat out the bad culture. If they put enough talent on this team, they go out and get Surtain or Queen to fix this defense. There's this legit scenario where I don't want to say week one, we could say they're going to win the Super Bowl, but week one in September, we could say they have a chance because they have, the talent there and the NFC is open. I live in Havertown and Jason is not far from me. Okay, gotcha. Like, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. What's up, Dave? Good morning. On a lighter note, I really enjoyed the latest episode of New Heights yesterday. It's Chris Long, who I've always liked. Bo Allen, there's a name right there. And Jason just hanging out and telling great stories. I'll make sure you check it out, guys. CJ Stroud versus Anthony Richardson will be fun next year in the AFC South. No, it won't. CJ Stroud's 10 times the quarterback Anthony Richardson is. Without a shadow of a doubt. Jared Goff putting the fear of God in this fan base? No, not at all. Man, anybody that's worried about Jared Goff, man, I actually like Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff is extremely underrated quarterback. I think Jared Goff got screwed by LA. He leads them to a Super Bowl, average or not, whatever you want to say about him. But he led them to a Super Bowl, and they traded him away for another quarterback, which it worked out for both teams because Jared Goff's got the Lions playing well, and Matthew Stafford won the Rams the Super Bowl, so I get it. But Jared Goff gets the short end of the stick regularly. He does. But we can't say anything positive about about Richardson. He played like 4 games all year. He has potential. He has very much potential, very good potential. But anybody that's rating him off of a 4-game stretch, which he was average, I don't want to go there yet. Delusional. Same infrastructure in September as we have now. Temper your expectations massively. We are not making playoffs. Oh, come on. And George, and I hate to be the asshole, but I think you're delusional if you think we're not making the playoffs next year. I'm just telling you. There is no way that this team is not making the playoffs next year. The NFC is first off, the NFC East has not had a back-to-back division winner in 20-some years. There's no way the Commanders are winning the division. The Giants aren't winning the division. So it's the Eagles or Giants. They're Cowboys. Cowboys just won it, so that puts the Eagles in the front. But literally, I could count. You can make an argument for San Francisco, Detroit, Dallas being better than the Eagles. But there's next to no other teams that you can legitly say are better than the Eagles as they're constructed right now. You just can't. I think it's delusional to think that the Eagles won't make the playoffs. I hate that our defense was so bad that Baker looked that good. Yeah, and I mean, you can't say they're not going to make the playoffs. You can't say they're not going to make the Super Bowl. You can't say that they're going to make the Super Bowl or going to make the playoffs 100%. We don't know what Vic Fangio's defense is going to look like. We don't know what Kellen Moore's offense is going to look like. We don't know what's going to happen in the draft and free agency, all the cap space. But to say, I'm sorry, and I love George. George and I have become good friends. At least I like to think that. But delusional is saying that they're not going to make the playoffs. Stroud and Richardson may have a similar ceiling, but Richardson has a bit to go. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Revoke his wild card. He don't got no wild card. When watching the 76ers game, I'll be thinking of Phil when Lowry is on the court. Yeah. When Lowry makes his first 3-point shot for the Sixers tonight, everyone's going to be in my mention. See? I told you. Okay, it is to be continued. It is. But last year was as big of a disaster as could have been, and we still made the playoffs. So you got to think it's going to trend. There's something called positive regression. Jalen Hurts is going to have some positive regression. Nick Sirianni is going to have some positive regression. Sounds weird, but it's a real thing. Niners and Cowboys played us after 2 months of rest. Yeah. I don't even use those excuses. Do you hear me making excuses about the schedule anymore? No. The Eagles' schedule was terrible, but it is what it is. That may be the biggest saving grace, Phil, that it has become the NFC least again. See, I don't think it's the NFC least, Chuck. I think the Eagles and the Cowboys are both very good teams. Just like I thought the Eagles were going to be the first team to win back-to-back East last year, I think next year the Cowboys have a very good chance of winning back-to-back East. We just know that stats say that it doesn't happen in 20-plus years. But eventually it's going to happen. Maybe it's next year. But realistically, there's 4 really good teams, or 4 teams that have a legit shot in the NFC. The Cowboys, the 49ers, the Eagles, Cowboys, and the Lions. Sorry, I'm like, what? My mind blanked out there for a second. Eagles offseason has turned into as the world turns. It really, and it's just getting started, Marshawn. The combine isn't even here. I have heard that next Tuesday at the combine, Howie, Roseman, and somebody, Nick Sirianni, maybe Jeffrey Lowry, Howie, Roseman, and somebody will be speaking with the media. We'll see what we get from them there. Probably more of nothing, but it is what it is. What is up, Eric? Good morning. I'm glad you're here finally. You're wrong because you're looking at rosters before the draft. No. Exactly. And you're saying delusional to say that. You're not taking into account. Other teams have infrastructure but can get players. Does not matter what players you acquire if there's a bad coaching. But we don't know what the coaching is going to be like yet. You got to assume that Fangio and Kellen Moore will be better than Brian Johnson and Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. And there are plenty of players that have stood up for Nick Sirianni, that he is not the problem. I'm looking at the Eagles roster right now as constructed. And I'm looking at the Eagles roster what probably will be. Shout out to the Core 12. Somebody in the Core 12 bought a T-shirt. I haven't seen the name yet or the address it's going to yet, so I don't know who. But shout out to whoever in the Core 12 bought one of my they bought the original Fairway to Heaven T-shirt. I greatly appreciate it. Also the Core 12 and the stop. And I think the stop word is perfectly for George. Stop. I'm not wrong. I may have been wrong that Jalen Hurts was top 3. But I wasn't wrong that Jalen Hurts was still a solid quarterback. NFC South is the least. Yeah, right now the NFC South is still, at least in the NFC, the worst division of football. NFC South, AFC South, they're both. The South divisions aren't really good. Tampa, meh. Atlanta, meh. Seattle, or New Orleans Saints, meh. Carolina, bleh. Not very good. You can't make an excuse about the schedule, especially after knowing that the gauntlet was the last 5 games. I mean, I could, and I did, but now I'm realizing it's not an excuse necessary to make. K1's the Kevin Nash. I don't know about that. That schedule was brutal. It was brutal. And it wasn't just that. It was combining our brutal schedule with the easier schedule of other teams. I get it. We only played, what, 2 1:00 games all season? I mean, there's lots to go into. Yeah, exactly. We don't know what players we're going to lose or acquire, 2 new coordinators and all the other coaches, and what Jalen will look like. So it's hard to tell how good we will be. But to say we're delusional for thinking this team will make the playoffs, all right, you want to say they're not a Super Bowl contender yet? All right. But they're still, as the infrastructure is at this point, still better. We will revisit this. We're going to revisit this, George, like 47 more times between now and September, probably. We're going to argue about this nonstop. We're going to argue about this till we're blue in the teeth. And I get it. I do. I'm 80% sure, which means I'm 80% sure 100% of the time, right? Yeah, no, sorry. Kevin Nash, Mount Rushmore, best wrestler interviews you can have right now. Yeah, is that right? I don't know about that. I lost a lot of respect for Kevin Nash a long, long, long time ago. The finger poke of doom. That's all I got to say. And Hulk, one of the worst stories in all of wrestling history. Just no, can't do it. Can't do it. Also, on this whole thing, though, and because me and George are arguing, is the hold on. I'm missaying his words. Delusional we will win the Super Bowl. I didn't say they were going to win the Super Bowl. I said that they are going to be one of the contenders to make the Super Bowl in the NFC already because of how weak the NFC is. You said that they weren't going to make the playoffs, and I'm gonna find the quote here. I'm gonna find your comment. maybe. There's so many darn comments to page through sometimes. Um, People are talking Super Bowl. There we go on that one. Here it is. You said, we are not making the playoffs next season. I just think that is delusional, is what I was trying to get at. 20% chance? I would say 25, because I'm saying there's 4 teams right now is constructed to have a chance. I'll say 25% chance. So we'll meet in the middle like we did on Jalen Hurts' ranking at 22.5. Keep giving it to him. No, stop. Don't encourage George. Don't you do that, K1. Don't encourage it. Please. You can't have George getting any momentum here. Didn't say best wrestler, but one of the, I know you didn't say best wrestler. I'm just saying I don't know if he's a great interview. I can't get behind anything he ever does. And I see your prediction. I just say you're 80% delusional on that. You can't, you might not be the Chris Sims hater. You look at things very logical and very cut and dry, George. That's always been your thing. You can't think that Jalen Hurts is as good as 2022, but you also got to think he's better than 2023. You got to think he's somewhere in the middle. You got to see what Jalen Hurts is capable of putting the work in to be better, which means you got to think that he is going to be better. We're going to have a different offense around him, obviously. Different play caller. Maybe, hopefully, a play caller. We did not settle Hurts at 13. No, we did not. No way I ever put Hurts ahead of Herbert. Not yet. No way. I said 10. You said whatever. Yeah, I couldn't get you up from 13. I walked out of the pawn shop. Okay? I said, I guess we're not making a deal. All right? Jalen Hurts is going to be a better version of himself in 2024. That I'm not 80% sure. That I'm 100% sure. What that better version of himself is going to be will be dictated on free agency, the offense, the coaching scheme, so many different things. And I also will say this. It's not just say 80% accurate or believable, George, that they're not making the playoffs next year. It's not going to be because of Jalen Hurts. It would be more, in my mind, if we miss the playoffs, it'll be more because of Nick Sirianni than Jalen Hurts, or more because of Howie Roseman than Jalen Hurts. And this is not because I've got some blind loyalty to Jalen Hurts. I just got blind loyalty to the Eagles. I just want to see us win another Super Bowl. I do. But the rumors on Nick Sirianni, while more far-fetched, if true, are a scarier proposition to tackle than the rumors on Jalen Hurts. We are definitely making the playoffs next year. There is a 7 playoff spots. It will be hard to miss the playoffs. 3 NFC South and Washington Giants already worse. Yeah, exactly. 1,000%. There's no way. The NFC South doesn't even deserve a playoff team. I mean, the Bucs did beat us. I know. So the Bucs or the Saints will win that NFC South. I mean, in the NFC North, it's the Lions and maybe the Packers. And in the West, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, counting the Eagles and the Cowboys. And out West, you got the 49ers, which is 6, and either Seattle, maybe, or the Rams, maybe, 7. So there's really like 8 teams competing for 7 playoff spots. So I could say without a shadow of a doubt, no doubt about it, the Eagles will be in the playoffs next year. Unless something tragically disastrous happens. Massive, like 2020 level injuries. And that's even pushing it. It is quality content. So that's the thing. Everybody wants Flyers talk or Phillies talk. Look, the Eagles are still what brings up the best conversation. I'm saying. They're the most debatable thing. Everyone crushes we crush the dial all the time. But not because they talk football all the time. Because football is what brings us together in a fractured, weird, sick, psychotic way. A play caller that wants to pass, he will expose Hurts' weakness. They had a bad fit. Now, I don't disagree that I'm still not 1,000% sold on Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore likes to – I don't even think it's the pass. I think Jalen Hurts is a better passer than we give him credit for. He can make the throws. What he can't do well is audible at the line, read a defense, get through his progressions quick enough. Those are the things that he's got to improve on, not actually physically throwing the ball. And I've said it on the show before. If you haven't seen it, George, that I say my big concern about Kellen Moore is he likes to have his quarterback under center. Can Jalen Hurts play 80% of the snaps under center? Does he need to be in shotgun to read a defense even average like he did last year? So I'm more concerned about what Kellen Moore's style is in that aspect than the pass. If we miss the playoffs, Sirianni's gone before the end of the season. Hey, I love the shadow of a doubt. I've been trying to mix in bout of doubt to see if anybody catches up on that, but no one has heard me say bout of doubt yet. I'm looking at this as the Eagles as a collective as to why we don't make the playoffs. I'm not apportioning individual blame. The situation stinks. The situation's always going to stink. No matter what happens, unless we win a Super Bowl, which has only ever happened one time in our lifetimes, in our history, ever, we're always going to have drama and controversy around our Eagles. And the national media is going to spark these debates constantly by purposely putting clickbait things that we all fall for. And it is what it is. But it does bring up good conversation. It does make the first 45 minutes of a 90-minute show fly on by. Nick Sirianni slid in one of his. I hope not. I hope we don't have another Udoku situation on our hands. Well, that wasn't a player. It wasn't a player's wife from Udoku. Wasn't it like one of the secretaries or something like that? But I know she was married or she was divorced or he was divorced. I don't know. That whole situation stunk. We'll flip this back to you. How can you say that without a shadow of a doubt before other teams draft players? Well, I could say this. All right. We got a massive amount of cap space. We have holes on this team, but not all over. We've got cap space. We've got draft capital. You love to give your undying support to Howie Roseman's abilities. You got to think Howie Roseman's got a strong plan to rebuild. Howie Roseman always has his eye on the current team and the future at the same time. You got to believe if you're going to show support to Howie Roseman, unless your Howie Roseman support has waned over the last year or two, that Howie Roseman is going to have an excellent offseason. This team's already got the core in place in Jalen Hurts, and two elite wide receivers. Still a pretty solid offensive line. On defense, we've got two young drafted studs on the defensive line. As of this moment, Hassan Reddick, one of the best pass rushers in football. We've got a core. And you love to support Howie. So you got to have faith that Howie is going to make the right decisions to, at a minimum, stay level, which is an 11-6 playoff team. He's not going to have an off season that's going to make them drop. And other teams just give a middling team, say the Atlanta Falcons or the, let's see, who else could I throw in there? The Minnesota Vikings. They would have to have an exceptional offseason to jump the Eagles in the standings. We can have a good offseason, and we're a playoff team. They would have to have an exceptionally perfect offseason for it to happen. Even while winning at 10-1, the offense never looked smooth. Yes, and I tried to make the argument on this show that, hey, ugly wins matter and stuff. And ugly wins do matter, but we didn't look deep enough at the ugly wins. And what was the root of the ugly wins? Some was the coaching, some was the defense, some was Jalen Hurts for sure. Nick was using his plants pickup line. He tried to, I want to say he planted some seeds, but oh man, I can't believe I just said that. He was trying to plant his seeds and grow some roots, man. He's a good married man. All I know is if Chris Sims zigs, I zag. Yeah. Oh man. For the first time, I'm concerned about. Oh, okay. So at least you're willing to slide that way. All right. If you're willing to say that, I get it. So you flipped me to the positive, Howie Roseman side, and here I am saying I've got undying faith in Howie Roseman this offseason. And you're saying the complete opposite. Oh man, the tides have changed so much. So much. Nick, you don't mind if I plant a seed in your garden? Yeah, no. Oh, we're so immature on this show. Dave, save me here. I found it interesting that Micah Parsons, of all people, said he thinks we're one of, if not the best teams next season. It's weird. I didn't see him say that. Micah Parsons just wants to be an Eagle. So bad. He does. He really wants to be an Eagle. And he might be someday. You never know. Specifically coaching, as Hurts forced them to give him a contract. Hurts forced them to give him a contract by playing exceptionally well. He didn't force him and say, I walked. He played and earned that contract. All right. This conversation has gone off the rails with the dirty Nick Sirianni conversation. That's all I'm going to say. Howie's only excuse or success is in managing the cap. Disagree. I'm sorry, Chuck. Actually, I think his managing the cap is one of his most overrated things that he does. Because all he does is kick the can down the tire. Kicks the can down the road. Is that how the saying goes? I tried to put the word tire in there, and I don't know why. I can't. Howie is much better at trading than he's given credit for. Finding value in trades. And getting people here. The A.J. Brown trade, the Darius Slade trade, the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trades. He's constantly bringing guys in trades very, very cheaply. So he's very good at that. And his drafting over the last 2 to 3 years, you look up and down this team. Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, anchors of that line for the future. Devontae Smith, anchor on offense. Jalen Hurts was a draft pick that was back in a bad draft class still, but we got our franchise quarterback there. So over the last couple years, Howie Roseman's drafting has been immensely better. His trades are great. His cap, there's reasons why every couple of years we have massive cap issues. Eventually, it catches up to you. Just hopefully not anytime soon. Maybe coaching decisions are down to Lowry completely. The defense corner change midseason was disgraceful. It really was. And again, I said it plenty of times on this show since the season ended, even late in the season, that I would keep Nick Sirianni. But those that say don't keep him and fire him, I get it. Because there's plenty of check marks that say Nick Sirianni should have been fired at the end of the season. And if this Derrick Gunn report is even 2% true, it probably should have happened. But now you can't. You can't. I saw somebody say something. Just fire him now. You probably couldn't go about that now. Firing Nick Sirianni this late into the offseason. Lowry's fingerprints are all over a lot of things. Lowry says he wants to be more hands off on the day-to-day operations, but Lowry can't help himself. Jeffrey Lowry is weird. Jeffrey Lowry is one of the best owners in sports. He runs a profitable team with minimal real drama. Like, we have this kind of locker room drama and all, but you don't see our players getting into trouble or doing really awful things. Great for the community. Raises so much money for so many different charities, Eagles related and non-Eagles related. He turns a huge profit. Has one of the best stadiums in football. I don't know, but that's what they say. He's a great owner. But Jeffrey Lowry also wants to be Robert Kraft and Jerry Jones. He wants the Robert Kraft dynasty and trophies, and he wants to be Jerry Jones, the GM. Now, Howie Roseman and him. See, it's like Nick Sirianni, we always say, is Howie Roseman's puppet. Well, Howie Roseman is really Jeffrey Lowry's puppet. It's just the way it is. And it'll always be like that. And with the greatness comes these kind of bad problems, too. Flacco, I mean Hurts. You're a pain in the ass, George. I love you, man. A pain in my ass today. I remember how he's screwing the cap up after 17. He has screwed the cap up many of times. And he gets out of it eventually. It is what it is. But his cap management is one of his most overrated abilities. How he's good at finding undrafted players, practice team cuts. He can find talent after the 5th round. First 3 rounds, Harry scares. But why? Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, Devontae Smith. You know, maybe Nakobe Dean. Maybe. They say Nakobe Dean. I don't know. The last couple of years have not been as bad. In fact, you've found multiple anchors of your future early in drafts the last couple of years. Hell, I'm not ready to write off Nolan Smith yet. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. Now, maybe Jordan Davis was a mistake over Kyle Hamilton, but Jordan Davis is still an elite player. Well, all right. Jordan Davis is not an elite player. He's got the potential to be an elite player. He's got to work on some of his conditioning and different things. But Howie, Jalen Carter is an elite pick. Nolan Smith still may be. So I'm not saying that Howie Roseman can't draft early anymore. Gone are the days of Danny Watkins and Jalen Reagors and Ortega Whitesides and Davian Taylors of the world. Those days are gone. Howie doesn't try to outsmart the world anymore. So we've got to give Howie some credit for improving. For sure. I used to say that you could lock Howie out of the war room until the 4th round. Yeah, but that was years ago, Eric. Look at the draft classes the last just like 3 or 4 years. There have been a few misses. There have been a few mistakes, Jordan Davis over Kyle Hamilton, but there's very few busts. Jalen Reagor was probably the last bust that he drafted in the first 3 rounds for sure. And that's it. You have to screw up the cap every few years. How he works in 3-year windows. Yeah, that's true. And this, you are right on. This is year 3. I get it. Then we just happen to have the ability to maybe get upwards of $60 million in cap space this offseason. That's it. But at some point, the bad Slay and Bradbury contracts are going to come back to bite us in the ass, whether it's this year or down the line. Jordan Davis can only compete against Joey Chestnut. Stop. Jordan Davis is still a solid football player. In the 80s, 90s, when nose tackles were a thing, Jordan, I always say about in the Sixers lane that Tobias Harris is a man out of time. He should have been playing in the 80s or 90s, and he would have been a much better player. Take current Tobias Harris and drop him in when mid-range games matter, when guys were a little slower and less athletic. Tobias Harris would have been a pretty elite player. Jordan Davis in the world of nose tackles, when every other team had a nose tackle, big fat guy clogging up the middle, Jordan Davis would have been elite. But that's just not the way the world goes now. And the Jordan Davis pick was bad because we all wanted Kyle Hamilton, and Kyle Hamilton's turned into an all-pro, and hindsight's 2020. And I did want Kyle Hamilton in that draft. I did. But I also said I knew Howie wouldn't draft a safety early in the first round. It's just not his MO. So for all the positives I just said about Howie, Howie is still stubborn. And this year in the draft in the first round at pick 22, if he stays there, it'll be an offensive tackle, it'll be a defensive lineman, or it'll be a wide receiver. And all those positions are still much needed positions on this team. But I'm not ready to crush Jordan Davis. Fire high, Roseman. You've done a complete 360. Now I got to get you, 180. This 360 means you'd be right back to where you were. Now I got you to do that 180 on Jalen Hurts. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but someday, some way, I'm going to use the mind trick, and I'm going to get you to support Jalen Hurts. He didn't draft. He did not draft Danny Watkins. I know. I just like to throw Danny Watkins' name in there in bust. I don't know. You can talk about any GM, and I'm going to throw Danny Watkins' name in there just because it's one of the worst picks of all time. But Howie has had a lot of misses early in his career picking. But in the last couple of years, at least the last three, 21, 2, and 3, were very, very strong draft classes. Culture, foundation, building draft classes. In 2020, while he missed on Rager, he did now the Jalen Hurts pick. Howie is still a top 5 GM. The coaching decisions have been out of character. Yeah. I still think that Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lowry, the only way that they'll fully change the entire way of doing business is if they take their hand off the coaches. If they don't hire puppet coaches anymore. They need to go back to, they need to find a mix between not having a powerful coach that has all the say, but has no say on player personnel. Let Howie build the team that Nick Sirianni wants, and let Nick Sirianni run it however he wants. Give Nick Sirianni the players type of players he wants. That Howie Roseman's number one thing that keeps him from being one of the top 2 GMs in the league is the fact that he doesn't work with his subordinates. Well, it's his way or the highway, which it's really Jeffrey Lowry's way or the highway. The puppet regimes constantly from the top on down. That is probably the biggest issue with the Philadelphia Eagles, at least in my opinion. That would be what the biggest issue is. But he's still a damn good GM. Roseman will have a GM job before the income. I absolutely agree with you. We've discussed this duck 100 times on this show. If he got fired, he'd be somewhere else instantly. And George doesn't really truly mean fire him. He's just joking. Exactly. So we're not saying that at all to fire him. Realistically speaking, I would love to have a sit down with. I've already asked Howie to come on the show. Well, I haven't physically asked him, but I publicly called him out. I publicly call out a lot of people on this show. None of them come on here. They don't get the guts. They expect cookie cutter questions or assholes like Eskin. They don't expect real conversation like I could give them and questions. But that's another whole subject. And I just lost my pen. Oh. Anyway, quick reset here. You're watching Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. Please, 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 please. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're watching, hit that like button, share button, subscribe button, retweet button, follow button, wherever you're watching, please. And keep the comments coming. If you want to talk Sixers kicking off their second, they always call after the All-Star break in the NBA, the second half of the season. But there's only like 25 games left. So if anybody wants to talk about tonight's game, the fact that most of the team will be back tonight or this weekend, will be mostly healthy outside of Joel Embiid and Robert Covington, by the end of the week, by Monday's show. Please drop your Sixers comments and questions, or we just keep talking this Eagles situation here. Howie's number one fan. I get it. I get it. And I'm Jalen Hurts' number one fan. Somewhere the two of us have got to meet in the middle. But guys, yes, make sure you hit that like button, share button, subscribe button, please. Maybe I'm Howie and this is his burner account. That would be if I hadn't already seen your face and stuff like that. And, you know, if I hadn't already done stuff with you before, like that could be the case. But I know who, well, unless Howie hacked George's account, it would be the only other way. Jeffrey would tell you to talk more Flyers. Just can't do it, man. I can't get behind a winning team that says they're in sell mode. That to me makes no sense. If they were bad and they were in sell mode, the Flyers, sure. And I just watched literally one Flyers comment. I just watched 5 things drop on the counter on the top corner of the screen. Just mention the Flyers one time. 5 viewers drop right out. Just so you know. That is what people think of the Flyers. And it's because you can't get behind a team that's in winning mode but is selling. If they were losing and they were selling, fine. If they're winning and they're buying, fine. But when you're a winning team and you're selling, because it doesn't fit your plan, I get it. I understand it. I appreciate the honesty. But don't ask me to commit my time to them. Literally, the NBA has an all-star break. And they call post-all-star break the second half. Make it make sense. I'm pulling up the Sixers, right now. They have played 54 of their games so far. There's 82 games. What's that? 54, 82? 28 games of 82 games left. And now we're calling the rest of the season the second half. Make it make sense. I can't make it make sense. It's a tough one. It's a real tough one to understand there. The Flyers won last night. They did. It's a 3-1, I think. Actually, I didn't have the Sixers up because I had the Flyers box score originally up on my ESPN tab. I was going to drop a little Flyers nugget here or there. I didn't watch the game last night, but, whatever. It just comes down to, maybe in this scenario, the over-the-top honesty that the Flyers organization's given us might be a little too much. I always want honesty and transparency from our players, our coaches, our teams across all 5 major Philly sports. 6 if you count the Water Dog, who lost in the playoffs. Again, I didn't even know the Water Dog season started, let alone ended, let alone that made the playoffs. Whatever. I couldn't even have told you the Blackhawks are bad right now. Last time I truly cared about hockey, the Blackhawks were one of the best franchises in the game. But, we want this honesty from our teams and our organizations, and it's kind of tough when they tell you the truth, and it just frustrates the hell out of you. But, K1, I know you always want me to talk Flyers, but does my opinion on the Flyers actually do you understand why I feel the way I do this year about the Flyers? That it's hard to back a team that wants to win, but is their plan is here. They're exceeding their plan. This is very similar to the Eagles. The Eagles were, in a 3-year rebuild. They just happened to get to the Super Bowl in year 2. Forced things to be sped up a little bit. Flyers are in that same scenario, but they're telling you straight up to your faces, yeah, I know we're playing well. This was not the year we were supposed to be having, so we're going to stick to the plan. NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball seasons are too damn long. Yeah, I get excited to start all the seasons, and I kind of wane off in the middle of the seasons, and at the end of the seasons, whatever. It is what it is. They're not going to get any shorter. If anything, they're going to get longer. You think Embiid comes back? Best case scenario is us versus Bucks first round. I do think Joel Embiid comes back. As we spoke yesterday with Justin Crosby on the show, Kyle Lowry does not come to Philadelphia to play for the 76ers with multiple suitors looking at him if he doesn't think Joel Embiid's coming back. He's here to get another title, help this team get to a title. But this team has no chance at a title if Joel Embiid's not back. So I think Kyle Lowry came here because he was given some reassurances that there's a strong possibility that Joel Embiid comes back. My guess, 3-4 games left in the season, Joel suits up, plays 20 minutes a game for the final couple of games, and then you ramp him up in the playoffs. If you can get him 85% of what he was this year, that's still better than 95% of the players in the NBA. You still got a good chance. There'll be questions about continuity and flow of the offense and defense, but we'll cross that bridge. But I do think Joel comes back. The Blackhawks are the worst team in the NHL right now, are they? Man, that organization's fallen. Baseball in November is whack. Baseball in November is definitely whack. I would love to see them do more double headers throughout the season to kind of condense the season a little bit. You know, you don't need to be playing baseball in snow in late March in northern cities, and you don't need to be playing in bad weather in November. Cold weather baseball sucks. Now, I don't know how you can condense it much more than it already is. You can condense the playoffs a little bit. The playoffs don't need to take 7 weeks. You don't have to have all these days off in between games in the playoffs. And the regular season, add 5 old school day-night doubleheaders to the schedule that trims 5 more days off. There's ways they could shorten the season for sure. Especially with the speed of the game speeding up. You can get 2 games in easier in a day. They probably should. They just won't. Think about it. You know, we say all these other seasons are so long. Football is just as long. I mean, the football season just ended, and and we're like already starting on next year. Embiid doesn't need to score 30 when he returns. Let Maxey, Buddy, and Oubre take off the pressure. Yeah. But Joel Embiid has to be able to give you the threat to be able to score 30 when he returns. Because that takes the pressure off of Maxey, Buddy, and Oubre. I don't think the Buddy Hield trade gets done. I don't think the Kyle Lowry signing happens if Joel Embiid's not planning on coming back. I'm not saying I want him to come back. I'm not saying it's the best for his long-term health coming back. But I'm saying I think he comes back. And he needs to be close to his ability, even close to what he was 2 years ago. The last 3 years, he's gotten exponentially better each year. So we don't even need this year MVP Embiid or last year. Like we need 2021 Embiid's fine. Just great Embiid. 85% of Embiid is good enough. You know, I just worry about what kind of a flow this team could get into, and then you stick Embiid back into it. It slows things down. That's all. Baseball doubleheaders went away because of money. Absolutely agree. I know that. You know that. A lot of things changed in all 4 of the major sports over the years because of money. They're talking about basketball expansion teams. You've got more, international football games happening. The Eagles obviously going to Brazil. Newest rumor that the Browns are going to be our team we face down there, which is just weird. Like, would you really like the Eagles game in Brazil is going to have as many eyes on it as the Super Bowl? It's a historical thing to do. First NFL game in South America. And you're going to send Deshaun Watson to be one of the poster boys of that game. That seems a little odd. So I don't believe the rumors that the Browns are the team we're playing. Stanley Cup and NBA playoffs. Absolutely. You've got, in the playoffs, times where you go 3 days without a game for your team in the NBA. There ain't no need for that. You want to play every other day? Fine. You don't want to do back-to-backs? That's fine. But when it's an East and West Coast team playing against each other in the playoffs, like in the NBA Finals, or a team with some travel, like you don't need like a game, a day off, a game, 2 days off to travel across to the next city, and then a game. You don't. Seasons could be trimmed up a little. They definitely could. But again, it's all money. It's all bottom dollars. Look, I know a lot of people are making the Deshaun Watson in Brazil, what could go wrong jokes, and I get it. They're funny. They're not really funny because what he did was horrendous, and he's a dog shit human being. Pardon my French. Um, Scumbag. But dollar wise, big picture wise, face of everyone talks about Roger Goodell cares about the shield, the image of the shield of the NFL so much. So you're doing something so insane as having your first football game ever in Brazil. And the rumor is that you're going to put him and Jalen Hurts on the poster together. Two totally different personalities. One upstanding, fine young man, and one that's done some awful things. I just can't. I can't believe that that's the game that it'll be. I'm surprised and shocked it's not already been announced that the Cowboys. I think somebody said it can't be the Cowboys. I forget why. But I would assume they would want another big name franchise down there with another poster child type person. Imagine needing back to Big Dom here. But again, Mark, and thank you for tuning in. Thanks for your comment. Like, I don't understand if this is true. I believe more of the Derrick Gunn report on the Jalen Hurts side of the equation than the Nick Sirianni and Big Dom. Because how, for the life of me, did Nick Sirianni keep his job if this rumor, if this theory and thread is accurate? Big Dom ain't a coach. He ain't a psychiatrist. He's the head of security. It's not even like Nick Sirianni hired him. He's been working in Philly for what, 25, 30 years? He's survived more coaching changes than anything. Hell, they fired more probably towel guys and laundry guys than Big Dom. If I'm the NFL and you want to get eyes on a product, Eagles versus Cowboys, exactly. Eagles versus Cowboys would be my first choice. I don't even know who else is on the Eagles schedule technically. And there's rules on who can and can't go based off of international games before and where you went in the playoff. There's so many things that go into it. I know Pittsburgh was one of the names that could have been our opponent, but Pittsburgh's a boring. There's no person out. There's nobody there to be a post child. Mike Tomlin would be the poster child next to Jalen Hurts in that situation. You would think you'd want a big rivalry game with multiple huge, personalities that can go to it. I just, the rumors that it's the Browns just make zero sense to me. Really don't think South Americans give a crap about Watson's image. But see, the thing is, Roger Goodell cares about the image. And you really think Roger Goodell wants to put Deshaun Watson's face on a banner with Jalen Hurts in Brazil? And actually, I disagree. Maybe I think South Americans would care a little bit. Maybe. There's going to be a lot of international media on hand that don't get to ask these questions usually. Guarantee there'd be someone in Spanish asking a question to Deshaun Watson in that scenario. It just makes zero sense to me that it would be the Browns. That's why I don't buy it. And I'd have to look at all the teams that can officially be their opponent in Brazil, but I can't see it being the Browns. I just can't. Tarnish shield under Goodell. He should lose his court case versus Gruden. Owners love him. Most of the rest of us. Look, I get why the owners love Roger Goodell. Just look at the dollars and cents, the profit loss statement, the P&L since Goodell has taken over and compare it year over year. That money, he prints money. He literally prints money for those billionaires. He does. Honestly, I would love Roger Goodell to be the commissioner of the NHL or the PGA Tour or hell, even Major League Baseball to help take the leagues to new levels. But he does do some questionable things as well. The NFL and the Eagles organization has psychiatrists and psychologists available to all their staff. Sirianni doesn't need Big Dom to protect his mind, but just his body. Yeah, and there's something weird about that. Like, I just don't, it doesn't make sense. Like, I never saw Big Dom stepping in between Nick Sirianni and a player. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here. I find that part of it really, really hard to believe versus the Jalen Hurts part of the conversation. Most of the rest of us despise Roger Goodell. I'm not saying I like Roger Goodell. I don't. I get why the owners love Roger Goodell. That's all. The way he handles certain things. Let's not get too deep. But if you get caught gambling, there's a fine set of punishments. If you get caught doing drugs, there's set punishments. But if you physically abuse somebody, even if you're convicted, well, we're going to take it up and we'll think about it. His handling of a lot of the abuse cases in the NFL have been very inconsistent, and that bothers me. Goodell would never have allowed lift. No, absolutely not. Or he would have found a way to make sure both coexist at the same time properly, for sure. He'd fix it over Moynihan or whatever PJ boss man is. Kyle Lowry will be playing tonight, is my understanding. Kyle Lowry will be coming off the bench tonight, in my opinion. Let me see here. We got to bring up the game cast for tonight. See if they've released an injury report tonight, Nick, 7 o'clock. Robert Covington out. Melton's been ruled out. Batum is game time decision. So Melton and Rocco are out. Batum, game time decision. Lowry's not even listed on the injury report. Kyle Lowry will play. I would expect about 15, 20 minutes from Kyle Lowry tonight, in my opinion. And I'm going to be paying. I'm not going to really make a decision on Kyle Lowry after one game. I got to see him get involved in the flow of the offense and the team for a few games. Ask me my opinions on Kyle Lowry if they've changed in 3 or 4 games. Goodell has been at the forefront of the greatest growth of any sporting organization in North America. Yeah, I respect it. His methods are suspect, for sure. Some of his morals might be not agreeable to us. But as a business thing, there's nobody better. He makes money for the owners. The NFL, first NFL regular season game that ever played outside the U.S. was Giants at Dolphins. Eli before he run rings and Cleo Lemon. I know, I was there. That's interesting, fine information. What year was that, George? But so yeah, it was Eli versus Cleo. So not elite names there, but the Giants are an elite. No, I shouldn't say elite. They're a well recognizable brand. They had runs. They're a New York team, even though they play in New Jersey. They should be called the New Jersey Giants. The Dolphins, the only team to ever go undefeated and win a Super Bowl. They had legendary names. So they're recognizable names and brands. The Cleveland Browns don't fall into the Giants and Dolphins category, in my opinion. Goodell would be BFF with John. Maybe. The product will sell regardless. Absolutely agree. The tickets are going to be off the chart, blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't go to the conforming way of what Roger Goodell does normally. 2000, it's been that long, but I feel like it should have been even, like, it feels like 2007 was a long time ago, but I feel like it also wasn't as long ago as I thought it would have been. If that makes sense. Like, I kind of feel like it probably was like in the late 90s or very early 2000s. But 2007 was 18 years ago, 16 years ago. It's a long time ago. When I see the number 2007, I think it was yesterday, but it's not. Don't cave to the babies of New York who don't teach their kids of fans basic geography. They are the New Jersey. I agree. They got a shitty stadium and they call themselves the wrong name. It's not like the Nets are it was like when the New Jersey Nets were did they even play in New Jersey? At least now the Nets are called the Brooklyn Nets. They play in Brooklyn. It's not like they're called the New York Nets. Play in Brooklyn, they're the Brooklyn Nets. Just like the Philadelphia Union should be the Chester Union. So Sirianni has a fiery temper like Sonny Corleone. Dom has to make sure Dom is the Tom, I guess. If we want to make a Godfather reference, Dom was the Clemenza. Maybe. I would say more like the Tom. Although Tom looks like Tom wasn't a wartime consigliere. Tom looks like he can handle himself in a wartime. Yeah, maybe. If we want to go that route. Anyway, back to George. Yeah, the whole thing. Whatever's on the menu is going to sell in Brazil. But what I'm talking about is that this is going to be on the eyes of it's going to be viewed, talked about, and promoted just as much, if not more, than the Super Bowl, internationally speaking. It's a huge deal internationally. And you would think that they are going to want it to be perfect. Roger Goodell wants this to be perfect. Roger Goodell wants more opportunities like this, more countries, more people paying big money to get these games. That's what I think, and I think the Browns would be a mistake in that scenario. It's just not a mistake, just a scenario where I just don't see it making financial or business sense. As long as Dom isn't Kate, I'm okay. Do you think Nick Sirianni has the guts to say, Kate, don't ask me about my business? He don't got the chance. He don't got the cojones for that. Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni's more like the Fredo to Big Dom's, Sonny. Dom is parmed and dangerous. Parmed and dangerous. I need glasses. I had a real quick. I had a very old moment yesterday. I've been struggling with my eyesight for a little while. I had a long story short, traumatic face injury a long time ago, and my eyesight's getting a little bad. So I actually made an appointment to see an eye doctor, and the eye doctor prescribed me glasses. They're ordered. They'll be here in a week or so. I expect nothing but the best comments from everybody, crushing me when I show up on this show next week sometime with glasses on. But I'll be able to read the comments so much clearer once that happens. But I feel like I'm such an old man that I did something responsible to better myself, like make an eye doctor appointment and order eyeglasses. As long as Dom isn't. Oh, I already read that one. That wasn't no heart attack. Dom looks like Luca Brasi in my big pussy voice. That was not a curse word. That was talking soprano. May your first child be a masculine child. Play on the joke, armed and dangerous, except Dom is a chicken farm, if you will. All right. Gotcha. Maybe Kellen Moore is going to take over the family business. There is a scenario. Now, I disagree in philosophy with the scenario. The philosophy is that Nick Sirianni's got a short leash in 2024. And if there's struggles early in the season, they come out of the gates 2-3 or something like that, that he gets yanked. Kellen Moore takes over as head coach. Seems like a Howie Roseman type thing. The young offensive-minded coach takes over. The hot shot coach. But my theory is why I don't like that, Mista, is because if you're going to give him only a 5-game window to prove himself again next year, Nick Sirianni, you should have just fired him now. That was my biggest argument to fire Nick Sirianni. I wasn't going to fire Nick Sirianni, but if I was, it was because if you're only giving him a little window, let's get on from him now. Because if you're firing him week 5 or 6 next year, because we're terrible, we're 2-4 after week 6, and you're firing him then, you're wasting away the season. How often does an interim coach lead a team successfully? And we see how Doc Rivers taking over a team, mid-season's doing for them. Phil is join us in the nerd squad. I have had glasses since the 5th grade. They did a test. My left eye is perfect. I'm actually not getting a prescription. It's just going to be a regular lens in there. I have to get a prescription for my right eye. Long story short, I took a baseball to the face, broke my orbital in 4 different spots, almost lost my eye in the surgery. So I've always had problems, but it's gotten progressively worse. And if anything, the problems in my eye are making my left eye get overworked. So yeah, and I'm not ready for contacts yet. So we are definitely going 4 eyes. Yeah. Hey, I love The Sopranos. Sopranos is one of the 2 or 3 greatest TV shows of all time. I know it's hard to compare TV shows and movies, but we always have the question on here: Sopranos or Goodfellas or Godfather. I would watch reruns of The Sopranos over Goodfellas or Godfather any day. I love The Sopranos. It's prime viewing right there. Doc Rivers taking over in the meth season. Let's said mess season for a second. It's like what? Look, Doc Rivers just keeps throwing more and more people under the bus, making more and more excuses in my mind. Either he's gone or Dame or Giannis is gone at the end of the season in Milwaukee, there's a scenario where this just completely falls to pieces. How many more things does he got to say before someone tells him to stop, get that microphone out of your? He is just way too. We want honesty and transparency from our players, coaches, and teams, but there's a level of transparency that we don't need. And Doc Rivers is like, he's like out in left field. Like, I don't even know what to say about him anymore. I don't. I got no clue. I actually thought we were going to talk about Doc Rivers today a little bit more. I thought we were going to talk Sixers a little bit more today. I thought we were going to talk Patrick Surtain. Rumors are they're fielding phone calls for Patrick Surtain. All these things will just be added to tomorrow's docket, unless there's some other insanity rumor that gets broken today that then we've got to spend an hour and a half talking about. That's the great thing about this show. It's called Trending in the AM. What I make this show about is not necessarily what the show always ends up being. I got to make the show the day before. And then random shit just comes up out of nowhere, and we just start talking about it. But that's why you got to get everybody watching Trending in the AM, because there's no show like Trending in the AM anywhere else across radio, TV, intraweb. There's no show like it. God, I could not imagine being. There was a long story short. I originally wanted to be an HR manager. That was going to be what my career was going to be in. Hotel, restaurant, HR manager. I'm so glad I didn't do it. I'm so too politically incorrect for that. But on the flip side, knowing as much as I do about HR, and I know a little bit about PR as well. I mean, every content creator is a PR person as well. Knowing what I know about HR, whoever's in HR in Milwaukee he's got their hands full for sure. Doc Rivers is like, hey, I won a championship. These guys suck. Won a championship 16 years ago and hasn't won jack crap since. And he's had some pretty damn good teams. I wish. Again, shout out to whoever bought a Fairway to Heaven original t-shirt. Again, there's a t-shirt store with Fairway to Heaven and Trending in the AM logos and a few other designs in it. Make sure you check it out. Always greatly appreciate the support. But whoever bought that shirt, muchas gracias, senor or senorita. We didn't even get to Julian of some. If only Surtain would cost the Eagles a first and a third like AJ. Well, we're gonna get it. We'll bring that up tomorrow. Tomorrow we got Kylie again coming on the late part of the show. Talk Phillies. We're gonna talk Patrick Surtain tomorrow. We'll recap tonight's Sixers game. Who you got in the Sixers game tonight? Sixers are 1.5 point favorites against the Knicks at home. Knicks will be without OG, Michael Robinson, maybe Bogdanovich. I think Julius Randle is still out. They're 1.5 point favorites. The Sixers. I think I said the game before the All-Star break was must win. They lost that game. Now this game is must win. We got to get this next 4-game stretch, which is super difficult. The Knicks and the Cavaliers, and then you got the Bucks and the Celtics. I forget in which order. Extremely difficult. You got to get this first win against the Knicks tonight to carry into the Cavs game to maybe get 2 there. Oh, if you can get the Knicks tonight and the Cavs next, then maybe you can beat the Bucks too, because the Bucks are imploding. I'm telling you, getting 2 or 3 of these next 3 games at home, crucial. So I got the Sixers winning tonight. I think they cover the 1.5 point. Obviously, I see a 7-8 point win tonight for the Sixers team. I really truly do. I think they take care of business tonight and get the second half of the NBA season off on the right foot. Imagine you're HR, and telling the franchise player that there is an appropriate way to get your 60-point ball. I don't know. Don't want that job. Hal had more Hall of Fame talent around them, Doc or LeBron? I don't know. They both have had a lot. At least LeBron's won more than one title. I would take the Knicks on the money line, but I don't bet on home team games. Yeah, it's a firm rule of mine as well. I try. If I bet on Sixers games, it's normally like same game parlays, and I never take the lines, the money line or the point spread. I always just take the over-unders and player props, and that's it. And even that's tough to do. I've lost so many parlays because I think Tobias Harris is going to have one of his games, and then he doesn't. I don't know. I think the Knicks are just a little too banged up on the road in Philly. Philly's getting a majority of their guys back starting tonight, adding Kyle Lowry. I think this is the moment that they make a little bit of a run, get a couple games. And I could be totally wrong. Totally wrong. I don't know. All right, we're at the end of the road for the day, guys. Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. Make sure you hit the like button, share button, subscribe button, retweet button. Even if you watched on replay, I check all the comments as much as I can. But make sure you help us grow this great show, great channel. I appreciate more than anything super chats, shirt sales, anything. What I appreciate more than anything is that little bit of support to share the show out wherever you're watching. I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, don't clap the creep. Yeah. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, guys. Anyway, everybody have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow. Kylie, 9 o'clock, talking Phillies. We'll talk more Eagles. We'll talk more Sixers tomorrow. Everybody have a great day. And as always, drama or no drama, go Birds.